Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather here on this first day of November 2019. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, I got a webcam shot here of Barrow and the sea ice. A little bit, not a whole lot out there yet, but not a bad day up there. I've got snow cover over the area, but also you can just barely make out still some weak sunshine here at, I believe this was about 2 in the afternoon. So the sun's still coming up over the horizon in Barrow now, but that's going to end here in the next, I think, 3 weeks or so. It's a little after the mid-November that it goes down for good for, well, until next year. Anyway, moving on to the hazardous weather graphic, we've got a winter weather advisory out here for the greater Tanana Valley, or I'm sorry, the greater Fairbanks area. They're in the Tanana Valley, and that's for snow that's going to redevelop here later this afternoon and this evening, and that remains out until 10 a.m. Saturday morning. And areas could see as much as 4 inches of additional snowfall in the area there today, with the heaviest amounts south of the Fairbanks area. Otherwise, no watches, warnings, or advisories anywhere else around the state. On satellite, here we've got clouds associated with the frontal boundary here, bringing rain into heaviest rain, mostly concentrated over the southern southeast coast today, and lighter amounts up to the north, and also some kind of a counterclockwise flow here, weak low pressure, that enhancing the clouds, bringing moisture up to the North Gulf Coast, into Prince William Sound, and then areas of mixed rain and snow showers kind of developing into a steady snow up around the Tanana Valley there. And also back to the southwest here into the northern Kuskokwim Valley, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow fell in that area today, with McGrath picking up at least 3 inches of snow during the 12-hour period in at 3 p.m. this afternoon. So heavier snow back in this area, and that area is going to be sliding on up to the northeast into the Nenana, Fairbanks, and those areas here later on, or this evening and overnight tonight. Otherwise, to the north, pretty dry and chillier temperatures here back to the west and to the north. And areas of light snow occurring along portions of the Arctic coast throughout the day today, as we saw in that webcam shot. Also some areas of clearing occurring up there as well. Snow and gusty winds today on the eastern Arctic coast from roughly Port Thompson airstrip. They're seeing gusts anywhere from 40 miles an hour eastward to Kaktovik and Barter Island, where they had gusts close to 50 miles an hour. And still pretty gusty this afternoon, starting to trend down a little bit there, but much lighter winds back to the west. And out over the Bering Sea, not a whole lot going on, just some clouds here associated with a trough. That's actually an extension from this area of cloudiness here, and just south of the Pribilofs there, that getting pushed southward on some rather gusty northerly winds up to 30 to 35 miles an hour there across the Pribilofs. Also along the southwest coast here, seeing winds gusting 30 to 35, some cases approaching 40 miles an hour in the windier areas there, like Tooksuk Bay, Makoriak, and along the Yukon Delta coastal areas. Not that strong down over the Alaska Peninsula areas, but some rain showers scattered over northeast Bristol Bay, and just mostly cloudy skies with light winds for much of the Aleutians, and northern Bering Sea a little cooler and a little breezier, but still not all that bad. And on the chart today, could be in a few skiffs of snow just catching the St. Lawrence Island area in the Bering Strait there with that colder air coming southward, and then the open water kind of saturating the air mass there. And it could definitely cloudy skies with light snow. A little more of that condition up here along the Arctic coast. And this low cutting across Mackenzie River Delta, bringing 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts here. Or I'm sorry, cutting across the Mackenzie Bay, brought 50, 60 mile an hour wind gusts to Mackenzie Delta. And again, that clipping the east side of the Arctic coast of those 40, 50 mile an hour gusts during the day today. Otherwise, again, areas of light snow, northern Susitna Valley areas in toward Denali, and that's going to be enhancing, especially as heavier back here toward the Kuskokwim Valley. and then got to kind of a mixture of rain or snow, lighter amounts in towards sleep mute, and just dry this afternoon at Bethel. Temperatures in the upper 20s there. And scattered showers along this weak frontal boundary from Bristol Bay and on out to just north of the Fox Island. Just some isolated showers associated with that portion of the front. This one, as I mentioned, a little more active, bringing the heavier rain down to the southern southeast coast. That pushing southward now, actually south of where I got the front drawn here earlier on. And we'll see for tonight, continues to push southward, but that's going to keep light rain going much of the night over the extreme southern southeast coast, Prince of Wales Island, Ketchikan, Net, from Clark all the way over to Stewart and Hyder. And it'll be just kind of scattered light showers up to the north, maybe some light steady rain around Yakutat, otherwise diminishing showers to the North Gulf Coast, but tending to linger throughout the night, especially along this trough axis. Light showers, rain or snow, depending on your elevation, latitude, and time of night here, southern Alaska. And then the snow will be going on over the central Tanana Valley into Fairbanks. That area slipping on up to the northeast there. To the north of that, say from the White Mountains up across the upper Yukon Valley, in fact, the entire Yukon River Valley area right out to the Delta looks pretty nice with pretty clear skies here in the west. And then up along the Arctic coast, high pressure here over the northern Bering Sea from the Russian Far East, westerly flow on the north side of the ridge there, carrying a series of weak disturbances eastward. The winds will diminish here for the eastern Arctic coast quite a bit, will diminish considerably there from what you saw today, but still occasional areas of snow coming eastward there, caught up in that westerly flow. So it'll be breezy and kind of snowy at times and then better at other times. Bering Sea, mostly clear, or at worst, mostly cloudy, but generally dry with light winds here over the entire Bering Sea. Central Aleutians looking good. System trying to push in farther out there to the west, and we'll see for tomorrow, warm front does show up, but it doesn't look like the rain will have trouble even getting to Shimianatu. Dry with maybe some sun for the west central Aleutians over to about 8, maybe Atka, chance of showers from there. Eastward, real isolated threat, but it does exist. I'd look for mostly cloudy and the showers mostly more mist than hit, and will be concentrated along this trough axis here up into northern Bristol Bay, Togiak, Dillingham, maybe King Salmon. Pretty narrow band of moisture with that. Some clearing to the south and a lot of clearing to the north. And still some cloudy skies with scattered rain or snow showers to Sitna Valley down to the Kenai Peninsula. And then mostly snow showers diminishing there for the Alaska Range into the Tanana Valley and 40-mile country. Anywhere south or north of Eagle, probably won't see anything at all, but maybe some clearing. And even less of a shower threat here for the North Gulf Coast than what you'll see tonight. And still have this warm front hung up, or the frontal boundary hung up over the southern panhandle. So that's going to keep a chance of rain in throughout the day over the southern southeast coast. May actually tend to maybe lift north a little bit, but generally kind of stationary, getting stuck there. And you can see extending all the way back out to the west here, and then the flow coming up over the top of this ridge off to the southeast. That's going to spread some rain back into the east side and southern side of Kodiak Island during the day tomorrow, and possibly even reach places like Chignik and Sand Point in the afternoon. But that's about it. And then we'll see for the outlook on Sunday. Periods of light snow or showers and a couple of lows cutting across. Probably see those winds pick up again. The eastern Boulevard Sea coast could be like you saw here the last 24 hours. A trough keeps a chance of snow showers in along the eastern border into the Copper River Basin. And then this warm front spreads rain across all of the panhandle, almost reaching the North Gulf Coast. Rain, periods of, possibly moderate there for Kodiak Island, down along the Alaska Peninsula, but north side to the northwest of the peninsula, pretty good conditions, mostly fair, breezy, and cool with afternoon sunshine. Bering Sea looking good. Lows tonight, a little below zero here up over the northeast interior, otherwise out toward the water, open water, lower 20s to lower 30s. And mostly in the upper 30s, above freezing here south of the Alaska Range into Bristol Bay. Some areas having trouble dropping below 40, like Kodiak and the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow into the, pushing 10 for the Arctic Village and Anatuvik area there, about 10 for Fort Yukon. Mid to upper 20s for the Tanana Valley, south of the mountains in the 40s, 40s to lower 50s for the Panhandle, 40s for the Alaska Peninsula. and lows the following morning. Tanana down to 2 below now, that 0 degree isotherm dropping a little farther to the south, and in the teens now for the Arctic coast, but still 31 at Kaktovik. I don't know if that's correct, 39 at Wainwright. I think those are 2 outliers. And lower 30s now for southern Alaska, lower 40s for the Panhandle, followed by highs, 40s, upper 30s to lower 40s south to near 0 up in the northeast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather, pretty good out here over the Bering Sea. A lot of VFR, St. Matthew Island into the Yukon Delta coast here, all the way down into toward Adak, Shemya, Amchitka, all VFR. IFR here, a couple of bands, one from the eastern Aleutians right on up into the southern interior, and a lot of IFR, Gulf of Alaska, Eastern Gulf, right in across the Panhandle tomorrow. And for the afternoon, you get an improvement, kind of 2 bands now here over the southern southeast coast, just to the east side of Kodiak, and then this other band in between, kind of a break here with areas of marginal VFR as well as VFR in between, and then a big area of VFR up over the upper Yukon Valley area into the Tanana Valley, all the way down to the southwest coast, Bering Sea again, areas of marginal VFR, St. Lawrence Island through the Strait, and North Slope and Arctic coast. Otherwise, the Aleutians are VFR till you get to about Nikolsky. And then for Sunday morning, big area of VFR continues here, southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, right on up into the southwest coast, Norton Sound, Selawik Valley there from Kotzebue eastward to the border. And marginal VFR here, possibly getting into the upper or central or the upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, just north of the Alaska Range there. And still a swath of possible IFR here to the south. Marginal VFR at times mixed in with some VFR, Cook Inlet into the Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, and a solid IFR zone here, Kodiak Island, eastward into the north central Panhandle. And then for the afternoon, that sags southward there, marginal VFR up here over the northern southeast coast. And that IFR extends across the Gulf of Alaska to Kodiak and then off to the southwest, mostly missing the Alaska Peninsula. There's some marginal VFR there. Otherwise, pretty good VFR here into the interior, exception being the eastern North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, Copper River Basin into the 40-mile country, areas of marginal VFR there. Also up here over the northwest coast along mountains into the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, and right along the Arctic coast, marginal VFR, really not too bad. And again, a pretty good weekend for the Bering Sea. And passes tomorrow, Anaktuvik and Atigun, both occasionally marginal. Lake Clark and Merrill also look for marginal VFR at times. And rainy, you'll be up in that IFR zone there. So actually windy also, IFR mostly throughout the day Saturday. Isabel, IFR, Mentasta, marginal VFR. And Tanita starting out marginal, turning toward VFR noontime and into the afternoon. Should be a little bit better than the morning hours. And Portage, basically VFR, looking at marginal VFR though on the western entrance with that westerly flow. Otherwise pretty good out the east entrance. And for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR becoming VFR. And for the freezing levels here, gradient from southern Alaska here into the Gulf and across the Panhandle. We've got 2 to 8,000 foot freezing levels there across the southeast coast, about 2 to 4,000 southern Alaska at the surface here to the north, and 2,000 feet southeast Bering Sea to right near Adak, and colder to the west and to the north. And for icing, very weak system out here, may try to push some icing in, probably not until tomorrow evening or on Sunday there, but whatever makes it in won't be too significant. Otherwise, icing free for the Aleutians, areas of about 2,000 feet, but pretty light for the Arctic coast. Heavier icing here, just staying near or south of Kodiak Island, streaming in toward, but not quite making the southeast coast. Jet stream, high pressure here over the northeast Pacific, and 100-knot jet kind of comes toward Kodiak, then takes a turn to the east there in across the Panhandle. Arctic jet to the north, 40 to 60 knots, and for 9,000 feet, pretty light winds, 10 to 20 knots over the interior. And a little stronger though here over the Panhandle of that area, high pressure to the south and that thermal gradient. So we're looking at 25 to 35 knot winds there. Light Bristol Bay, southerlies 35, not making it to Kodiak, those turning off to the east. And Out over the Bering Sea, pretty light winds, 5 to 15 knots, and they're basically high pressure. High pressure also here over the northern Bering keeps the winds light there, 5 to 15 knots, and pretty light over the interior, maybe 20 knots central Arctic coast, and light over the Panhandle, maybe 20 knots, or Kodiak Island out of the northeast, and trying to increase here, but not too much over the far western Aleutians. Turbulence-wise, this area staying south of the Panhandle, maybe some isolated moderate chop on the central Arctic coast. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
We're at Vandenberg Air Force Base. We're about 20 minutes before the launch of ICESat-2. You might see the white light off in the distance. That's the Delta II rocket.
It kind of feels like an idea that was always going to just stay an idea. But no, it's real. It's sitting on top of the rocket.
You know, and for me, it's kind of surreal. Like you say, it's been 10 years, and it's hard to believe. It's like, we're really here? This is really about to happen? It's totally cool.
This is Dr. Tom Newman. Over the years, his work has taken him to some pretty remote areas to study changes in the ice regions of our planet. And his research, among many others, has defined the goals of the new NASA satellite, the Ice, Cloud, and Land Elevation Satellite 2, or ICESat-2.
And we have ignition. And
The story of ICESat-2 really begins with ICESat-1. ICESat told us all kinds of cool things about the ice sheet and about sea ice that we didn't really know to ask. That data allowed us to measure elevation change of ice sheets in a way that we hadn't been able to before, and showed that all the action on the ice sheets, the places that were really changing quickly, were around the edges. So when we were thinking about what could we do better next time, we knew that was one key component.
In addition to the edges of the ice sheets, ICESat-2 needed to measure a dimension of sea ice that remained elusive: its thickness. To figure out how thick sea ice is, you can measure the height of ice sticking out of the ocean, or freeboard, and compare it to the height of water between the sea ice flows, called leads.
The problem is, sea ice is really dynamic, and those cracks open and close various places in the ice pack throughout the day, throughout the year, and what we need to do is have measurements of the ocean whenever it's available, wherever it occurs in the sea ice pack.
To solve that problem, ICESat-2 was designed with a fast pulsing laser instrument to take precise, near-continuous measurements across its 3 pairs of beams. For 10 years, everything about the mission was designed to measure rapid changes in the most rapidly changing part of the cryosphere. But it has to get into space first.
But it's a huge transition going from the ground to in space. We've spent better part of 10 years, thousands of people have been involved, and actually seeing the rocket there on the pad with all of that work kind of all put together in one place, it's pretty amazing. And then getting up in the middle of the night to go watch the actual launch, it's sort of surreal in a way, because you've put so much time into it for so long, and actually seeing it over there is like, whoa, you know, it's a big deal.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's off. That's 1.
That was awesome. Totally cool. There it went. That was Atlas. The last Delta II heading on up. So Atlas has been turned on over the course of the first few weeks of the mission, really culminating for us with the laser. So this is our first look at sea ice data from ICESat-2, and it looks fantastic. The signal levels look great. We've got plenty of photons there. We're capturing ridges. We can clearly see the ocean. All sorts of cool stuff in there, and this is just our first data. It's only going to get better from here on out.
The data from ISAT-2 is well on its way into digging deeper into the unknown dimensions of sea ice sheets, and glaciers. It will shed light on changes in sea level and global weather patterns, and once again find new things about ice we didn't know to ask.
So my heart is definitely racing. I don't know about anyone else's. This is the stuff nerds dream of.
Slight chance the flight may see ISAT-2 in their center windscreen. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, that's gonna 5, 4, 3, 2.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis. Not a lot of big changes going on, and no big changes expected coming up over the next 5 days. This area up here will probably expand down a little bit. Well, actually, slow ice growth is expected all along the ice edge, with this area showing probably the biggest here in the west for the Chukchi Sea area. Off to the southeast, this area here may come southward a little bit over the next 5 days. Not expecting much additional growth along the Arctic coast here due to the westerly winds, mostly due to the west winds, and the temperature's not quite all that cold there. And for the coastal water forecast, westerlies 15 knots over Prince of Wales Island, otherwise central, southern, all the inside waters, mostly southerly at 10 knots, seas 2 feet. Variable winds here on the central coast, actually variable 5 to 10 knots, all of the central and north coast, seas about 7 feet. And then for Sunday, Lynn Canal, north 15, otherwise southeast 10 to 15 knots here for the central southern inside waters, with Clarence Strait, seas up to about 3 feet. Small craft advisories, west winds 25 knots here on the central and south coast, with seas 9 to 10 feet, and then east 25, turning northeast 20 up there on the north coast with seas 7 to 9 feet. Prince William Sound, light easterlies tomorrow at 10, seas 2 feet, north 10 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, east 10 for both the western North Gulf Coast and the Barren Islands. 10-knot winds, pretty light, northeast 15, Kamishak Bay, north 15, southern Cook Inlet, north of the Forelands, northerlies at 10. And then for Sunday, winds stay light here for northern Cook Inlet. Out of the north, roughly about 10 knots. 20-knot winds from the northeast, southern Cook Inlet down into Kamishak Bay. Also northeast 20 for the Barren Islands, northeast 15 for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, north winds at 10 knots with 2-foot seas. Kodiak Island, small craft advisories tomorrow here on the east side in these eastern zones, northeast 25, and then Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, northeast winds there on the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula at 20 knots with seas running 5 to 6 feet, northeast 15 on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, Bristol Bay, light northeast breeze at 10. And the outlook for Sunday, 25-knot winds now for Shelikof Strait with 6-foot seas, and also small craft advisories continue there for northeast 25-knot winds east side of Kodiak. Sitkinak at Castle Cape east at 25, a little stronger and more northeasterly here on down to Cape Sarachev, 30 knots, 12-foot seas. North side there, we're looking at northeast at 25 with 7-foot seas, and northeast 20 for Bristol Bay. Out over the western Aleutians here from probably Kiska, more than likely that southeast 20 Shimian at 2, otherwise 10-knot winds east of there, and then north to northeast at 20 for the AKwx area, seas at about 6, maybe 7 feet. And then on the south side of the Fox Islands, northeast 15, Bering Sea side, northeast 20, and on the Bering Sea side, seas will be the highest with running 6 to 8 feet. And then for Sunday, mostly north winds now for both Unmak and Unalaska Islands with at 25 knots and seas running 7 to 9 feet, northeast to north at 20 knots for Adak and Atka. And still that light wind pattern here over the areas from roughly Adak on out to Kiska at 10 knots, but maybe picking up to 25 towards Shimia. And then for the southwest coast tomorrow, offshore flow, northeast winds, St. Lawrence Island, the southwest coast, Pribilofs, St. Matthew Island, all at 20 knots. Norton Sound, north at 15. Outlook for Sunday, northeast 15 for Norton Sound, northeast 15 also for St. Lawrence Island, northeast 20 here all along the southwest coast, northeast 20 also for the Pribilofs there with 6-foot seas. St. Matthew Island, light east winds at 15 and seas only 3 feet. Eastern Boulevard Sea Coast, lighter winds you saw today, tomorrow, west 15 to 20, seas 3 to 4 feet. 20 knots sustained here on the central coast. Also the west side here, then coming down to 15, Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort area there, and then north 15 on down to Wales. And the outlook for Sunday, Wales up to Cape Thompson, southwest at 10. 10 knot winds, Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, west 15, western Arctic coast, northwest at 20. On the central coast, and those winds kicking back up again. We'll go small craft advisories at this point in time, sustained 25 knots with seas at 6 feet. And for tonight, again, up that way, westerly flow with ridging over the interior, that carrying surges of light snow and maybe a little pickup of the winds, although the winds are going to drop off here on the east side tonight. This week trough keeps it mostly cloudy, kind of showery here, but there is a winter weather advisory off the central Tanana Valley, Fairbanks area, for up to 4 more inches by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. That's when the advisory expires. And at that time, the heaviest amounts will be south of Fairbanks. Still, frontal boundary hung up over the southern panhandle keeps a chance of rain in there through the day tomorrow, or through the night tonight. And then actually, warm front tries to start pulling it back north. So periods of light rain, southern panhandle tomorrow. Not too bad. Still mostly cloudy. Some scattered showers here over southern Alaska with that weak trough. Clear skies, cool temperatures, and then into the light snow condition up there, north slope in the Arctic coast. And the outlook for Sunday, rain definitely for the panhandle there, all the way up to Skagway, just grazing the North Gulf Coast. Moderate rain likely for Kodiak, fair and cool over the interior, the chance of snow north and along the eastern border. That's all I've got time for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.